Hey everyone, hopefully having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities. We'll take a look at the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. Again, if you need any help with anything, definitely check out my website, finding-value.com. Become a platinum member, and you can use the word discount in the coupon code, get yourself a discount. We do have a Sunday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, platinum question and answer session. Join the community. You can ask me any questions you'd like, and I'll give you my opinions around it. So let's dive in here. Let's take a look at the dollar first, the DXY. Again, we're flat today in the DXY. Looking at this and just kind of looking at the pattern that this is creating. Again, we've had a strong drive off this bottom here. This is a bottoming type formation. We've slowly kind of pulled back here, and I'm still looking for maybe one last movement down here, and then we'll see where we want to go from there. A lot of the times, you'll get a strong kind of impulse move higher, a slow pullback to the beginning of that move, and then we'll see another potentially impulse higher or a rollover and break lower. I don't know which direction this will go at the end, but my guess, if we were to look at this from a longer term perspective, this looks like a topping pattern here. So this is a move up, topping pattern, move down. So that's the big general overall picture that I'm seeing. That's the Batman pattern, if you want to know. The 10-year yield, again, slightly higher today. It's basically flat. And we're right at this resistance support line. And now we're going to see which way we're going to go. Are we going to pause here and then rip it again to the downside? Or are we going to get a bounce out of this thing where we head up for a little while? Again, I don't know the future, but we're right at support, and that's generally where we see a bounce if we're going to get a little bit of a bounce. 30-year yield still heading a little bit lower today. This did end up with the curve inverting a little bit because we saw short-term yields a little bit higher than long-term yields dropping a little bit lower. This still, to me, looks like we could see a little bit more downside in the 30-year yield. And then looking at the bond prices, the 20-year bond prices, we were slightly higher, but this isn't a convincing move off of this resistance support level. So again, we could maybe even bounce back and hit that support again. We'll find out over the next week or two. Big picture view on this, I do think that in the short term, we are going to go higher and then we're going to roll back over. On yields, that means that yields are going to go lower in the short term for a period of time. Maybe there's a fear in the market or some selling pressure or something like that. And it will happen over the next few months, 6 months, whatever it is. That's at least what I think may happen. The TYX TNX ratio, which is the ratio between the two, if we zoom in, it did come back down a little bit today, which means that it's not that favorable for gold in the short term. So we could pull back a little bit in the short term. Maybe gold rests a little bit, but we still want to see if we're bullish on gold or silver, all these, we still want to see the pattern of large up movements, small down movements. Which means it's a controlled, kind of the buyers are in control. We could see higher movements. So maybe we pull back a little bit in the short term, bounce around a little bit before heading higher. Again, I don't know the path necessarily, but I do say that this looks extremely bullish for this ratio to go higher, which is bullish for precious metals. And the market conditions for that to be bullish for precious metals. The 2-year yield, we're seeing a little bit of firming up here. We've got lots of wicks at the bottom here, lots of buying pressure here, and I want to see how strong this bounce is if we're going to get a bounce. If we're going to get a bounce, more than likely it's probably going to roll over and we're probably going to puke to the downside. That is my guess by looking at this, because we don't have any commanding strength in anywhere on this side of the chart here saying that, hey, the buyers are here or yields are going to go higher here. I just don't see that. I see buyers buying bonds in the very, very short term and yields potentially heading a little bit lower for potential scare in the market. The CRB index slightly lower today. Still looks good to go higher, though. Nice big up candlesticks, small down candlesticks. That still looks good for a move higher. The CRB to S&P 500, it's slightly lower today, and it's just moving sideways. Gold down about $14 again. We had flat dollar, slightly higher yields in the short term. Longer term, they fell, which means the curve was inverting some. And gold does not like that. It does not like that. But I will say this still looks very positive for a move that is continuing to go higher. There's not much selling pressure. It's not like we just got smoked today. It was slightly down 0.7% or so. But we've had nice, big, good drive all through here. Big up candlesticks, small down candlesticks. Everything still looks intact. Silver looks exactly the same. Great looking move for a continuation higher. Platinum up a little bit today, 1.2%. That still looks all right. Still looks like we could potentially move higher for platinum, and it still looks really good on a long-term basis. It looks like we could really start to break this downtrend line and start to move higher here if we can break above maybe 10, if we get up around 1080 or something on the lines of that. Get moving. One of the positive things that I look for is the continued outperformance of gold and silver mining companies in relationship to gold. We're seeing that outperformance continue today. It's up 1%. That is good because it means that money is still flowing into gold and silver companies, even though the price of the precious metals is down a little bit. So this still looks good, and we're inching our way up to break this downtrend line. If we break this downtrend line, guys, I'm going to be so bullish gold and silver mining companies. I already am, but this is just another validation that the ratio is breaking for gold and silver in a positive manner against precious metals themselves. And we are at a very low ratio for gold and silver mining companies, and the historical valuation against gold, we are very cheap. Lots of opportunity here. So GDX, yep, we were up a little bit today, even though gold was down, seeing continued strength and buying pressure in GDX. That's fantastic. We also are seeing that in SILJ with a slight up day, 0.35%, which is huge given that gold was slightly lower today. So SILJ is looking absolutely fantastic. We're breaking out to the upside of this little pattern here, and we could see a continued run in the precious metals mining companies. Crude oil slightly down. We're down 0.22%. We're just kind of hanging out. I do think we might have one last gap to close there before it moves higher. I would say crude oil, some technical analysis people think it's going to go lower. Some think it's going to go higher based off the fundamentals. I'm in the middle, guys. I don't know which way this is going to go in the short term. It highly depends on fear in the market, and if that fear gains steam, you can see that financial barrels could get sold off. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad play. It just means that there's going to be some short-term volatility, perhaps. Maybe we get a little bit of a selling pressure, and it may not even be very much. So again, short-term wise, we've broken to the upside. We could see a little bit of a gap closure before heading higher if it wants to move on up. Natural gas getting a little bit more selling pressure here, down 6%. And we're coming kind of at the bottom here. We're scraping the bottom. There will be natural gas supply getting pulled back out of the market. We are below the cost curves of the higher cost producers, especially in America. So that will pull back some. XOP, yeah, you know me, heading back a little bit. We've got this big bullish engulfing there, a bullish piercing there. That was our bottom, double bottom. We're breaking that double bottom. We're heading on higher, and we just encountered some selling pressure here. That's this guy here, bearish engulfing, where we could head back a little bit in the short term. OIH also exhibiting that same bearish engulfing pattern here, and we are coming back a little bit. I think that's going to continue until we see a reversal candlestick. But overall here, guys, there's our uptrend line, and we could maybe even pull all the way back to the uptrend line again before heading higher. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust up 3% today. That's some good buying pressure. today, and looks like we're trying to put a little base in here, and stick something in the ground that can kind of jump from to the upside, and we'll see if we can get that buying pressure to jump, or if we're going to continue to roll over and head lower. Uranium sideways today doesn't look too bad. It looks like we keep getting buying pressure around this general area or zone, and it's good that we're continuing to get that buying pressure. We still have a lot of downside momentum in this whole area down here, so it's working that downside momentum off. But it looks all right. TAN, again, still just moving sideways with TAN. Nothing really new to report. Copper ETF, COPX. That's also, it doesn't look too bad, guys. We're right against that resistance line. It kind of came back, but there wasn't much selling pressure to really drive us lower. And the buyers are coming back and basically holding us against this resistance line. We'll see if we can break and move on up. Copper is really low on inventory. Really, really low. Now, some people say, is this a shoulder, head, shoulder, where we could potentially head lower? It's not a flat neckline, but it's possible. It's possible. We'll see. Lithium, slightly lower today, and we're bouncing off that resistance line to the downside. A little bit momentum heading in, or gripping. A little bit more momentum heading to the downside. Put it that way. REMX also getting sold off a little bit against that resistance line that we hit, and we're just pulling back off of it. The S&P 500, this looks pretty strong. It's a bullish engulfing. That's usually a continuation pattern to the upside or a reversal candlestick. In the short term, we also see one here. So we pulled on back, reversed higher, pulled on back, reversed higher. So that still looks good to move higher. And the NASDAQ also has a bullish engulfing pattern where we could head higher. So that actually looks really good for a move on up. Looks good on the monthly candlesticks as well. Emerging markets up a little bit, 0.41%, bullish piercing. That does look like it will try to continue higher. For emerging markets, still looks good. XHB, which is the home builders, it looks like we're getting some support here. That's why the wicks are on the bottom of the candlesticks. It came back down. We can see the size of the candlesticks are also contracting, which generally means we're going to bottom, try to turn and move higher. We're also on a support level, going across and here. Moving slightly lower. This still looks like it doesn't look too hot, and it looks like we could pull back lower for Mu based off the candlesticks. Strong selling pressure, less buying pressure, and the size of the candlesticks are bearish, showing us more downward momentum. Copper prices still hanging in there. The way that this looks, we've got stronger selling pressure than the buying pressure, and it does look like we could roll over and head a little bit lower in the short term over time, even though we were up today. Lumber still looks like it's right on support, just moving sideways. No new information on that. We've got iron ore. That looks like it's contracting. The opening and closing price of these candlesticks is contracting. It looks like it wants to try to put in a bottom for a sideways move to slightly higher move in the short term. Nickel, slightly lower, but we're still kind of basing out with nickel. Again, not really too much to say there. This is not a bullish formation. It looks like we could go sideways for a while, or we could even sell off a little bit further to the downside. Aluminum, it's still moving for the most part sideways. We've just been grinding. This is a shoulder, head, shoulder that failed to materialize, and we're just kind of bouncing sideways. Baltic Dry Index continuing higher. That does actually look good to move higher still. We've put in, the buyers came in and they're putting in big candlesticks there. Looks good. Newcastle Coal also, I think they're going to see this move sideways over the short period of time. We have a lot of momentum. This very much looks like natural gas. Lots of selling pressure. Natural gas will pull coal lower if natural gas is cheaper and stays cheap for a little while. Then we got Ethereum. Slightly lower today, but still looks good to move higher over the long term. Same with Bitcoin, slightly lower, but this is a inverted head and shoulders pattern, which I think will have upward bias to it for a period of time. But that's what I've got for today, guys. That's the short term, at least what I'm seeing. Again, I don't trade the short term. I trade the longer time frames, and I just use these for buying opportunities to add to positions. Yeah, I still think gold and silver and platinum and the precious metals look the best of the groups. And I think that some of these energy areas could slow down or could relax for a little period of time, given where yields have been moving lower. Generally, that means that there's some sort of worry or scare or fear in the markets. People have been running to bonds, but that could change quickly. In the short term, that can change very quickly. I could change my mind's immediate if I see reversal candlesticks in the energy sectors where things reverse and go back higher. So that's what I've got for today. If you guys like the content, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the website, and we'll catch you guys later. This is Finding Value.